Hello and welcome back to my sunny Orange County, California studio. Nick Portillo here, and this is the Titans Food Service. Thanks so much for joining me again. Please, if you're enjoying the episodes, if you're following along on Apple Podcast or Spotify or anywhere you listen to podcasts, if you leave a 5-star review, that would mean a lot. Thank you. Today, I welcome Walt Postelwait. He is the president of Pac Group here in the North Americas. We talk about his journey in the food business, but then also talk about what it takes to be a president. He's the president of his company. We talk a little bit about his day-to-day, taking risks, strategy versus implementation, and so much more. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. Anybody looking to move up in the food business, this is an episode for you. I learned a lot. There's a lot of great nuggets. Let's go ahead and welcome Walt. Well, Walt, thanks for coming on and joining me here today. I know we're both California guys. How did you get into the food business?
Oh, it's a long story, but when I was in college, I was caddying my way through college, and I ended
Okay.
up caddying for some guys who owned a citrus processing company up in
Okay.
Ventura, California. Got to know them after 4 or 5 rounds of caddying for them, and told them about me graduating. And they told me they had an opening for me. I said, "Great, sounds like a fun idea," but unfortunately, right I was going to graduate, there was a citrus freeze, meaning the crop got froze and they actually had to lay people off because of it. So they weren't able to take me on. I ended up getting another job in advertising for 2 years. And then I got a call from them saying, "Hey, we're curious what you're up to. You want to look at an opportunity with us?" And I said, "Sure, I'll take a look." And it turned out there was a good start to get me into the food career.
All right. I like that you did advertising too. You ever watch the show Mad Men?
I've seen some episodes, not all of them, though.
Yeah, I know that they're big ad guys in that show. So you're in the citrus business, and where do you go from there? Essentially, what is the journey to get to where you are today as becoming a president of your company, Pac Group?
Well, I spent about 6 years as an international marketing manager, product manager, basically,
Okay.
for the citrus company. I was in charge of their essential oils, meaning the byproducts. So, one of the major, when you're making orange juice, basically, you got the juice and then you've got some byproducts you get from it. One of them primarily is oil and essence, and those then get sold off into the flavor industry. So, spent 6 years doing that. Got to know a lot of the flavor companies and a lot of contacts in the flavor industry. Um, and the company I was with, the citrus company, they were privately held, and they were just going to bring up their family members. They didn't want to grow beyond a certain size. Things were good for them, so they didn't really have a really growth path for me. So at that point, I decided to look around the flavor industry, and it ended up they had a sales manager position for the West Coast with a company at the time by the name of SKW Biosystems, which was a flavor company.
Mm-hmm.
And they were a small business unit of a much larger German company um, based out of Trotzburg, Germany. Today, they're known as Eon. They're one of the largest specialty chemical companies in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they brought me on as their sales manager. Had some good success with them for the first 3 years as a sales manager. They then acquired another flavor company in the U.S. At the time, it was called Alex Freeze Inc. They're based out of Cincinnati. With that acquisition, they then had enough volume of business to warrant a marketing department. And they basically asked me to come out and be part of the marketing team and head up the marketing side of what they were doing. So did that, when moved to Cincinnati, spent some time with them, helping them in different product categories as far as marketing. And at the same time, luckily enough, they kind of tapped me on the shoulder and gave me the opportunity to get into an international master's education program. And that was done through INSEAD and through IMD. INSEAD's in France, and
Mm-hmm.
IMD is based out of Switzerland. And these were basically 1 year programs that they would pick only about 30 people worldwide out of the several hundred thousand they employed to then basically it was the up and coming leaders within the company. It was training for them. So it was specific training relative to the company and relative to these schools. I went through those two programs, did a lot of international travel, did a lot of international project work for the company. And then a couple, about 5 years after living in Cincinnati, my wife and I had a couple kids, and we were kind of missing our family and needed some help with the kids. And at the same time, I learned that SKW, or the German chemical company, was looking to divest. They were actually going to be divesting the flavor division in North America. So rather than waiting around to see how that would shake out and what it would mean for me, I looked for a job on the West Coast and ended up finding a position as a general manager for a small flavor company, very privately held, very boutique, small company here based in Los Angeles. So that gave us the opportunity to move back to California, live closer to our family, and at the same time, it gave me a chance to take in more of an elevated role as an overall general manager in charge of production, sales, R&D, etc.
Mhm.
So that gave me the step. Was there for about 3.5 years. The owner and I didn't quite get along, didn't see eye to eye on a few things. So I decided to leave and took on a VP of sales and marketing role with a botanical ingredient company. It's a company called by the name of BI Nutraceutical. And they were at the time the largest nutraceutical company for botanicals in North America. So I headed up their sales and marketing program, customer service, etc. We had some tremendous growth for the 6 years I was there. Went very well. And then, as it happens in our industry from time to time, a recruiter came calling and just asked me if I had any interest in looking at a new opportunity. So at that time, I was commuting down from my commute was about an hour and a half each way,
Wow.
um, and wasn't really ideal for me. Having two small kids at home and that type of thing. So I said, "Yeah, I'm interested in looking at it," and it turned out to be for the company I'm with today, which is Pac Group, and they're a family-held company. They were looking to. They were in about 120 different countries with their products in the baking side of the industry, and they were looking to find somebody to help develop their business unit in North America. So ended up meeting with them over Skype, and then ended up meeting them in person, and the rest is kind of history. They tapped me on the shoulder, said, "Hey, yeah, start up the business for us," and that was about 11 years ago.
Well, one, thanks for sharing your journey. I appreciate that. Um,
Sure.
Looking at your time, starting out at Pac Group, and, building out that North America business unit as the president, what were some of the first things that you looked at as you know th- uh, that were part of your plan that you wanted to do?
Well, first we had to start with the basics. We had to get accounts, financial accounts set up. We had to get get the company incorporated, make sure we had the right, legal structure put in place. Then we had to really try to figure out the branding and marketing. Um, the company overseas goes by the brand name of Pac Maya, but we weren't certain if that would really translate here in North America. So we actually hired a firm out of New York, a marketing firm, to do some research for us to see if Pac Maya brand name would actually be a good strategic name for us in North America, or if we should adopt something new. And they quickly came back after interviewing some of our target accounts, customers that we knew we would want to go after, and found out that no, we should probably come up with a new brand name.
Yeah, that
So
makes
then
sense.
we went through a process to boil it all down, and we ended up with the brand name of Bella Rice here in North America.
I like that. Would you say all of your past experiences helped you with this rollout here in with Pac Group, or was it a lot of learning as you go, or learning on the job?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I would say the education program helped a bit, maybe 20%, but it's really learning on the job. My recommendation to anyone else who's coming up in the industry is to always, stretch yourself, try to do more, try to take on more than you may or may not have time for. You're going to get a lot of learning out of that, and you're also going to, catch the eye of some people internally who may want to, tap you to take on a new role.
For those listening, my question to you, Walt, would be, let's say you're at a current position, whatever that may be, and you want to take that jump to, the next role above, or shift to a different company and get a higher position. What is like some advice or maybe some experience that you have that helped you get to that? Like, is there a nugget that you say this is something that was really pertinent and helpful for me to take that next step?
Well, I think the first and foremost, when you're working in a team environment, assuming you're at a good company and there is a good team environment, is to always look after the company's best interest first and put your ego aside.
Hmm.
And, always take on the mantra of, it's not my, don't ever say it's not my job, you know? And if you do that and you work in a team environment and you're always putting forth extra effort, I'm sure you're going to catch the eye of management to some extent. Secondly, if you're looking for a promotion, you're looking to take that next step. I suggest one of two things. One, obviously let your supervisor know so that there's no confusion or ambiguity about really what you're at, what you're striving for. And then second, I'd also, I highly believe in and highly recommend people to get mentors. You know, obviously it's probably best to start at the organization you're in, or possibly find somebody in the same industry, but who's at the level you want to get to, and have them give you other ways to handle things, to give you advice about certain situations that may help you make that next step.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. I agree on the mentors and asking your supervisors. I always try to think like, what's you don't want to cheat the process, but if you could speed it up, if I can surround myself with people who have been where I want to go or at where I want to go, it seems to help out a lot. Kind of shorten that learning curve, which has always served me well in my career. I've been in the food business now for 9 years, and I own my own business with my dad. And I find that risk taking and surrounding yourself by people with people who have been there, done that, who you idolize, follow kind of their footsteps. That's really been a nice blueprint for me as well. That was a nice nugget.
Yeah.
Thank you. What about on the flip side about people that are in a leadership position and they have team members that report into them, and they recognize that a person has a certain aptitude, and they have higher aptitude than the job that they're currently doing. How do you assess that? And I guess my question is, that they can do more than what they're doing right now, but maybe you don't have a role for them, but you want to see them succeed and move up in the company. How do you overcome that?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's really important to have a goal setting process for your employees.
Okay.
That way, as management, you already if you go through that, you'll know what your employees really are trying to achieve, what really their goals are. That way, you might be able to highlight an individual who you didn't think wanted management role, but through the process, you learn that actually they do. Once you know that, then you can mentor them, or you can at least get their supervisors to mentor them to get them ready for those roles. Obviously, as a manager, what you're looking to do for a person you believe you has a lot of value and maybe can move up in the company, and if you have the right openings for them in the future under your business plan, then you want to groom them. You want to get them start having them put the toe in the water per se. Maybe manage some project groups, or maybe have them manage some financial project that their supervisor then would overlook, or whatever the skill set they may be lacking to make that next step. You can build a program around it for them to give them the education so that when they step into a management role or whatever the next step is, that they're ready to run for the most part.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. What about for you? What does your current day to day look like?
It's a bit varied. I mean, we're still a relatively small organization here in North America. We do a lot of our business is managed through co-packers and third-party warehouses, and we have a lot of third parties. So, I basically on my day to day, I'm helping my department heads figure out strategically where we're going with specific projects. I mean, my job overall is to make sure they've got the resources they need to get all of our strategic projects moving forward in the right manner and the right timing. And to make sure it's very clear to all the department heads and everybody else what our strategy and what our direction is and what is taking a priority relative to that strategy
Hmm.
so that everybody's on the same page and we're all marching in the right direction.
Do you find that when you set out a strategy at the end of whatever the time period may be that you set, that the company has followed that strategy, or does it more often than not fall off that path and you have to kind of, readjust?
Well, we adjust as we go, but what
Okay.
we do, I'm sure every organization is different. It depends on how large and complex an organization is, but in general, what we do is weekly, we have one large team meeting each Friday to go over all of our strategic projects, to go over our strategy and update the whole team where everybody stands with those projects so that we can, alter the course if there's roadblocks or if there's unforeseen obstacles to what, we were trying to achieve. So we adjust kind of on the fly, basically.
So it sounds like there's probably measurables and data that you have in place that you track and make sure that you're on, going in the right direction.
Correct. And and all the ingredient companies I've been with, and of course there's many out there that I've never been inside, but most basically manage most of their business against a project pipeline, a
Okay.
sales and an R&D product development project pipeline. And the two have to go side by side. Obviously, most projects on the R&D and the development side are geared around what the customers are asking for, the strategic customers, and managing and making sure that those projects are going to meet your goals. I mean, obviously, large companies can't spend too many resources on very small financial projects. They've usually got to put the resources toward the larger projects. But making sure that your pipeline is full enough, making sure
Hmm.
that it's has good, solid projects that you have a better success rate of achieving to commercialization. Those are really the keys in from the sales and marketing aspect to make sure you're moving forward as a business. Then you've got to basically execute for your customers on the operational production delivery side of everything as well.
What about when you come out with new innovation, new products, new whatever it may be? How do you test a market to make sure that there is a market there who would be interested in buying what you're going to be producing?
We typically will take our new innovations, what we think to be innovative, and we think obviously if we worked on them, we think they have value for the market. We will always take them to our largest clients first. One, because we have a strong relationship already with them, and
Mhm.
two, they actually expect that. They expect to be the first to see new things because if it's something really innovative, then they may want to try to capture it exclusively for some time. So that's usually our best sounding board is to take it to some of the national companies and present it to them and get their feedback from an R&D and a marketing perspective.
Do you come to them with the idea first, or do you produce the product and then pitch the idea?
It's going to vary, to be honest with you.
Okay.
A lot of times we'll get the ideas just by having our dialogues and relationships with our larger clients. Because we basically our job is to find out what are their needs, what do they see in the future, what direction are they going in, and how can we bring value.
Mhm.
So from that, we can then extrapolate product development ideas and or innovation ideas. So obviously that's better because if we do meet the mark on that innovation or product, then we know automatically we have somebody who can utilize it. But there are other times that we'll do a marketing survey of the entire market and try to figure out the trends and figure out what's coming up, what's next, what are our customers going to want, or what do we think they're going to want, and then we'll actually internally start producing against that. Yeah, we'll start R&D projects to come up with solutions that will bring value for our clients in that area.
Solving more problems, for your customers.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we sell ingredients, but really what we're selling is solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. It sounds like in your role, there's probably a significant level of risk, that you have to take. Judging by, you have to look at your numbers, look at the market, look at what opportunities there may be, threats, things like that, and then making an educated, um, guess, if you will, on will this work or will this not work?
Absolutely. I mean, it's really where the project pipeline comes into play is we prioritize that pipeline to what we believe has the best chance of success.
Hmm.
You know, not only from a financial return point of view, but also from a ability to commercialize it and get the customer to adopt it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
It,
as you know, within the food ingredient side, I mean, projects projects can take anywhere from 6 months as long as 2 to 3 years from the time you start working with a client on something to the time they decide to incorporate it into their finished products. So it's
yeah,
a to your point, there's a lot of resource that goes into it for that time period. Then you want to, as an ingredient supplier, you want to see a return at the end.
sure. What about it? It takes you 6 months up to a couple years to produce something. And what if that ideation, is very successful, and then you have competitors that say, "Hey, I want to go ahead and make something similar." Do you see that happen quite often?
You do. I mean, we do it. Not to. Sometimes we actually are doing the opposite. We're the ones chasing somebody else and
Right.
mimicking what they've produced. But at the same time, it really comes down to relationship, quality of product, price points, and service. So there's three pillars we operate under, which is product quality, price, and service. Because you've got to have the product quality just to play in the game and meet the customer's needs. The um, the service is really where you differentiate because obviously you've got to be price competitive.
Hmm.
But service is really where you differentiate. It's not just service on having a salesperson taking somebody to a dinner or something like that. It's beyond that. It's also, you know, going above and beyond when your strategic clients need you. If they say, "Hey, we need your help with a plant trial next week. Can you get on a plane?" Well, our guys jump on a plane and they go.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about for you, looking at your career, looking down the line, what is something that you hope to achieve that you've not yet achieved?
Um, well, continue to grow this business for this company for at least some time.
Yeah.
I would like to get, into a large organization and step into a CEO role, spend more time on strategy than operational execution. Because right now I'm spending most of my time on operational execution in addition to strategy.
Mm.
But there's more to be done on the strategy side. I think I can bring value there for an organization possibly. But I've got about another 10 years in my career, so it's really I'm comfortable where I am, and it's a great team we have. Um, but possibly in the future, if the right opportunity came along, maybe move into a more board level strategy position.
Yeah. There's the theory of the strategist and the implementer. Someone thinks of the idea and then someone needs to implement it. It takes a lot to do both, and it can tap your energy trying to do both as well.
Well, exactly. It
In my
can.
current role, I do both. Think of the company direction and then also the implementer as well. And there's days at the end of some days I'm like, I'm exhausted. That was a lot of work.
Yeah, and in my past, I've also worked for some people who were in charge of just strategy, but they never did the implementation side of it.
Yeah.
So 9 times out of 10, their strategies were pretty flawed. So it's good that I've come up from that side, just like what you're doing now, to have that experience so that you know how your strategies can or cannot be implemented. You know,
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Walt, I wanted to say thanks, man, for joining me and sharing your journey and your story. I really appreciate it. I always leave these conversations learning something new, and I definitely did here. So thank you.
well, sounds good, Nick. It was my pleasure.